Okay, so 26th of August 2022, and so over the course of 24 years, some things become vague. So I really had to think back about the very certain details, but about Magic Motion, right? But when you're walking down from Town Hall Station, right? Walk down to Town Hall Station to Darlington Harbour. So Town Hall's back this way, Darlington Harbour's here, Harbour, and you had Sega World here on this side. You could either cross the road with traffic, or you could cross the bridge, and then as you get down, right? So you walk in the staff entrance, and then down to the staff quarters. And now, go in the staff entrance, and you get in the stairs, and there was the costume area, the uniform area, clothes area, operated by about two or three ladies, beautiful women, lovely women, did a fantastic job, always nice, always appreciated them, and then you had the girls' women's change room over that way. Boys' change room was pretty much directly opposite the costume area, uniform area. And when you went outside, there was a semi-large smoking area, which people spent time with, hung out with. It was a very popular area. And then in all this area, because that was outside, you had about three or four flights of stairs to go up. I can't remember now. About, let's call it four flights. It's a bit cool in this day. It was called about 4 flights of stairs. So much detail. So this is cathartic. And 3 or 4 flights of stairs, and you get the stage door. Right, you get the stage door. I actually said stage door. I said stage door. Don't forget to smile. Now, back in those days, I had a similar problem with smiling, I think. I went through a very serious period, a semi-serious period, but I didn't always grin. It was more like a... And so, occasionally I get pulled up. I get pulled up when people say, don't forget to smile, Pat. Smile. Smile. Stage door. Go. So you go through the stage door. AS1's there. So you go through the stage door. AS1 immediately. Mad Bazooka. VR1 over there, and then you had the pylon, like a pylon type, a large pylon, right? And I think there may have been a TV screen each side. The TV screen on this side, the TV screen on that side. Put AS1 Aquanova. Now AS1 was the most unfortunate ride to be on. If you're on AS1, extremely unfortunate, because it's just simply, there wasn't anywhere to go. There's nobody on AS1, and you had like about 6 steps leading up to a platform, and then there's the capsule, and then the ride, and the ride allowed about 4 people, and it went for about 4 minutes, I think. And it was a very unfortunate shift to have, because there's just nowhere to go. It's like you're open to attack. It's like you're open to attack from everyone. And if there's a big queue, you just also while the ride was in operation. So that's what you had to keep an eye on the ride. So looking at the control panel, there was a video screen, and say we had to do that to make sure if we saw anything go wrong, we'd stop the ride. Rarely did that happen. I just remember that. It was very unfortunate if you came to work hungover, or not feeling well, or hungover, which occasionally would happen, and you get assigned to AS1, it's like, oh. And also, not only that, but this is AS1, these are the stairs, that's AS1, stage door is just there. But every 10 seconds, or every 30 seconds, about every 1 minute or 2 minutes, that stage door is going to open, and there's a 50% chance it's going to be a supervisor or management. Someone's going to come out through that stage door, through that staff exit door, about every 30 seconds. So not only do you have nowhere to go, but management can come out, and because AS1's a fairly tedious ride to be on, it can feel like the seconds are ticking by fairly slowly. Just say if you ride yourself in an AS1 and but someone comes through the stage or a supervisor, so you're on high alert. You're on high alert because the stage door opens. just wasn't fun to be on there. Oh, and also, and so what would happen if you're on AS1? Usually, the supervisor, before 4 hours would go by, and the supervisor, Brad, would was very good with this. Supervisor would come along and say, look, okay, you've been on this 4 hours now, look, why don't you just spend the rest of your shift on ghost hunters or rail chase? So, and rarely you would say, oh, no, I'd like to stay on AS1, I'd prefer to stay here. No, you'd happily go up there, and they'd say, they get someone to come down here, you just spend the next 4 hours. Generally, you didn't have to spend 8 hours on AS1. They won't torture you like that, and but that's what AS1 was. I think it ended up being something happened on AS1. There used to be, something weird happened, and they ended up putting 2 people on AS1. I think late in the later days. I remember that. I remember that now. So depending on which way you're looking at it, but AS1 stage door, AS1 Magic, the L1 pylon TV, over, and you go around the corner, and you go up through the arcade section, and you got the cafe, and you're heading up through see, cafe, and you're heading up through into the past, and I mean the present, exactly, and Magic Motion, right? The Magic Motion had a big archway, very big archway, and you're walking, it was a fairly big area inside because of the anticipation of large queues. And then what happens is you go through the foyer doors, and there's another area. This is the part that this is the part of the detail that I was trying to work out, because I was like, how would all the people be coming in through the one door? They don't. I think it was about 5, 6, so there's about 5 rows. I don't remember how many folks go at once. And I was really, this is the part that I was trying to remember. I actually even Googled it, but there's no information on Magic Motion. And to my memory, so what happened was there was 5 doors which opened. So you had the intro, right? And then you had, and it was on this angle. And the doors, like, there were approximately 5 rows. But how many chairs per? Let's just say there was 8 chairs per. Let's just say 30 people went in at once. Let's just say. So there was maybe. It was a fairly big room, and very similar to a theatre. I don't know if the chairs were leather. I think maybe they were vinyl or something. They're very, very extreme. Oh, so comfortable. Those chairs are so comfortable. Oh, yeah, comfortable. Yeah, oh, comfortable. Yeah, it's very comfortable. Now, that was. So you had small groups of people in the foyer area, because they had the intro video, which went for about 2 to 3 minutes, maybe 4 minutes. Maybe 4 minutes for that, which would benefit us. Now, right operators, now. Go in, because the doors, 5 doors would open, and people would come in their lines, right? In their things. Designated doors. And so people weren't coming in through one door. But what happened was that this is okay. So while the intro is on, there was 2. They'd filmed 2 roller coasters in the US, in the States, and what happened was you'd either get one or the other. You could see them both, but only one ran at a time. And then everyone it was a fairly simple control panel. And what happened was I got the aisle here, and right in front of me, screen, aisle, control panel, seats. Okay, and they were moving, I was standing still, and I actually had a seat. I did have the right operator, Magic Motion, actually had a seat. I do remember that. I don't think I use it very often because it was more of a standing thing. But the thing was that ride would finish, everyone lights and comes out through these doors, and what happens is that the people, the new people to come through, the next crowd to come through, are watching a 4-minute intro video, which gives the ride operator, if you're operating Magic Motion, you get 4 minutes of chill time. You get 4 minutes when you can just relax. It's downtime. You can tune out for about 3 or 4 minutes. And so if it's a semi-busy period, roughly every 6 minutes you get to relax for 4 minutes. You get to have a bit of a chill for 4 minutes, and just some downtime, just as a look. Getting 3 to 4 minutes of downtime, relaxed time in a semi-busy day, it meant a lot. It doesn't sound like much, but it meant a lot. And so what would happen usually during the intro, because I don't know how long the intros went for, I'm going to say 3 minutes, probably about 3 minutes. It was a nice, decent time. But 50% of that time, you'd be sitting back and thinking the door would open and maybe a 50% chance of a supervisor walking in. It might even be, Brett, or it might be Ben, or it might be Ron, and Nancy, Nancy was the name of the supervisor. She had black hair, usually had tied back. She was very good to me. Nancy was the name of that supervisor. The supervisor would walk in, and they were cool about it. They were cool about you having you sit in the chair and all that. They weren't worried about that. They were easygoing about it. Although sometimes Ben would say to me, "Don't fall asleep there, Pat." Ben might say, "Don't fall asleep there, Pat." And because the chairs were so comfortable, it was really, really good. But also the catch-22 of that, the flip side of that, is that there was no one in the park. Just say there was no one in the park, Magic Motion was still excellent to be on. However, is that if it was 2 people on the ride, so it's unlikely there's going to be one person out the front and one person chilling in the back, because you'd be talking, you'd be conversing. And so while the intro was on, a lot of the time your assistant would walk in, and they'd say, "Oh, I just came in here for a couple of minutes to have a bit of a couple of minutes. Just came in for a couple of minutes." And sometimes I'd be the assistant. Sometimes, as much often as not, I'd be the assistant. Take turns. And sometimes they'd say, "Can I operate?" Or sometimes the person who was doing the queues outside in peak periods would be having a lot of fun interacting with the guests. And they'd say, "Oh, look, you operate for another hour. I'm actually out here with the guests." And sometimes they'd say, "Hey, I've had enough of this. Can I operate for a while?" And there was a thing there. There was a thing. I used to have a particular spill. Oh, what was I going to say? I just don't know the capacity of Magic Motion. If there were 6 seats at the front, there was 5 rows, it's 30 people. Well, we're going to call it 30, because I think, just say 30. And I used to enjoy those roller coaster rides, so I used to enjoy them to the extent they were fun. It felt like I rode it a couple of times. It's a fine line, because if you're there operating it and watching it, and the only difference is their seats are moving. It was fun. I had just as much fun standing. It was like, I did enjoy Magic Motion. And actually amazing I didn't get motion sickness, but what was I going to say? I said something before, I remember it. It's my head now. I'm going to say something. That's right. I got to it, didn't I? And I remember it now. Got it out of my head. I'm trying to get it back. Really important to operating, not operating. It's is that oh, that's right. But I just remembered 2 things. But I was just going to say very quickly that in the irony, and I won't forget what I was going to say. Actually, you know what? I will. I'll say what I was going to say. I was going to forget it again. I had a spill. I had a particular spill, as I said. They would come in and say, "Hi everyone, welcome to Magic Motion." Just a few. I had a very particular spill that I said. Had to make sure that everyone's seatbelt was in. And then this is the tricky part. And some people didn't say this. I'd never had it down. Not that I didn't have it down properly, but I was supposed to say it. Some ride operators didn't say it. I did. I'd say if at any time anyone felt, and you guaranteed to have a few kids, always got a few kids in there, because parents come in with their kids. And so I would say if any time, if anyone feels, let me just check the memory. I'm in the battery. I'm pretty good. I'm really good. Because I deleted that footage up there. I said if any time anyone feels sick, if any time anyone feels sick, please just raise your hand and I can stop the ride. Problem with doing that is that the stop the ride takes 10 minutes to reset. Maintenance has to come up and the whole thing. And if there's queues outside, that can be really annoying. And so, what would happen? I'd do that, start the ride. 15 seconds in, some kid would raise their hand. I'd try to ignore it. I'd just try to ignore it. I'd be like, and they'd be like, and so I just stopped the ride. And then, because my spill changed over time for that, I stopped the ride. And I'd say, sorry guys, I'd say, sorry, I talked slightly differently back then. And I think we retained most of our personalities in real life, but I did speak slightly differently back then. I'd say, it's going to take 10 minutes to reset, and everyone needs to just exit, and they'd be like, and so, sometimes I wouldn't say that. Like sometimes I just wouldn't mention put your hand up if you feel sick. And when I would do that, no one would complain. When I mentioned it, people would complain. Even when however, when I didn't mention it, someone would complain anyway. It's always a kid. It was usually always a kid that would complain. They get scared. 10 minutes to reset. Maintenance had to come up, and it wasn't a big deal. They didn't frown upon you. Just one of those things. And now, in periods of the park where it was very quiet, and you're on Magic Motion with your assistant, it's unlikely that your assistant would be out there while you'd be in the back, just having alone time, just relaxing, sitting back in the chair. Possible. Maybe sometimes it could, but usually more than likely you both be conversing around the front because you had to be out the front in case the guest came along. Just sit back in the seats. Sit back in the because the best thing ever. Those seats were the best thing ever. You just go to the back and you sit in the seats and you. Yeah. And supervisors weren't Gestapos. They were all good. There's no real reprimanding. Ben was cool, Rhonda was cool, apart from her being weird outside the park. Brett, Nancy, all the supervisors were good. Oh! It was extremely busy, probably three people on the ride, extremely busy. You'd skip the intro, had to skip the intro. Either the supervisor would call up and say, look, request to skip the intro, or the assistant would come and say, we're going to start skipping the intro, there's too many people. We're going to skip the intro, so there was no intro. 10 seconds, about 20 seconds, about 20 seconds later, new crowd would come in because you just got to keep people moving, keep getting them through. Just keep it moving. And yeah. Oh. Yeah. Yes.